Hi, I'm Trevor from trevordumbleton.com, and today we're going to examine where to start with your internet marketing. And the question of where to start usually applies to beginners, but actually can also affect seasoned internet marketers if you want to branch out or go into a new area or something like that, because markets change over time, and if you've been away from a market that you used to make money from, or even just a year or two ago, it can seem as though the whole world has changed. And first thing to do is what chemistry calls a litmus test, and you might well remember it from school. You just dip a coated piece of paper into a liquid and it changes colour or not depending on whether the liquid's acidic or not, and it's just a very quick, pretty much yes or no test. So design something for yourself on that. It's actually not as difficult as it sounds, because the same can apply easily to your internet marketing. Just set a timer. I typically go for 5 or 10 minutes, not much longer, and do a quick search for your potential market. Then you'll get a bunch of sites come up, click into them as though you were just a regular user, and decide whether or not it's a market you want to go into. And because it's a litmus test, your first reaction is far and away the best. If you click onto a site and immediately want to click back because it's just garish, or there's pop-ups everywhere, or something starts playing when you get there, or whatever else that puts you off, that's not good. And if that happens for several of the top results, it's not a good match unless you unless you particularly like that style of marketing, in which case it would be a good match. For me, it's a put-off, and that'll depend on you. But if you get so far involved with the sites that the next thing you know is your timer bleeps, that's a good sign, because you're interested in the market. Next up is, can you create content for it? And internet marketing allows a lot of choice, but there's no point in creating a content for a market that's profitable but you don't particularly care about, or that you know next to nothing about. There's enough markets out there that you can have the best of every world virtually. It's not worth compromising, I don't think, anyway. And over the years I've met people who've pretty much followed the money even though they had no real enthusiasm for the topic. There was someone old enough to be a grandparent who wanted to tackle the acne market. Now, in that particular case, I know that because I run a scout group, I know that the language they use will be totally different, and the products will be different, and so on. They'll do the same thing or not, but then there was a man who, as far as I know, wasn't a cross-dresser, who wanted to sell women's shoes. Now again, knowledge of that, chances were very low, because his wife probably did the shopping for her shoes, not him, and it just didn't work. And there are all sorts of mismatches that to an outsider are obvious, but to the person who's too close to it, they haven't realised it won't work, and they're just, you need to make sure you're not doing that. So again, set a timer, and either on screen or on a piece of paper, off the top of your head, no research, start writing potential topics. And if you stall at 3, 4, 5 handful of topics, it's probably not a market you're going to be able to get into and create content for in the long term. If on the other hand you have sort of loads and loads and loads of ideas and have to stop again when this timer goes off, that's a good sign. Then next off, is there just one big player? And that's a warning sign. On soft drinks market, Coca-Cola. Pepsi are very much the David against the Goliath, and sure, you could be that David who beats the Goliath, but the odds are heavily against you if there's just one or two big players. On the cola market, that would be 2, just about. And this is especially true on the web, because it takes the search engines forever and a day to recognise that new sites exist, and you've got to be around a year upwards for them to trust you enough to show you in the search results. And there are exceptions, but most of the time that's pretty much true. On the other hand, if there are lots and lots of small players in the market, it could be a good sign that it's ripe for consolidation, and you could be the one to do it. And you can see that happening in the outside world all the time. Just take a walk down your local high street and notice how few independent shops are still there. And pay attention on the web or offline, but we're talking about the web here, to a sector that still has lots and lots of independents, and run through a few scenarios in your mind as to whether it could easily be consolidated. And in the bricks and mortar world currently, time of recording, coffee shops spring to mind. There's quite a few larger players in the market, but there's lots and lots of independents, and my guess is in 5 or 10 years' time that's not going to be the case. So you apply that same logic to the web, and if there are lots of small or almost hobbyist sites, or sites that haven't been updated for ages, ones where the copyright date is last decade or something like that, then that's a good sign the market has chance for you to break into it, because they're there letting their sites rot, and you don't have to worry about, I don't think you have to worry about whether or not it's got sites that are updated regularly. You need to worry about whether or not there's other things you can do with it. And that comes on to the next point, which is, are there buyers out there? And I've left this option deliberately until last because the answer is almost certainly yes. Oh, the obvious answer is Amazon, but there's lots of other ways. And even markets that initially seem to be spending no money at all can probably be monetized. That's something that couldn't have happened a few years ago until AdWords to an extent, but there's other things coming out that we'll touch in a minute. But think about it, I mean, you've got file sharing sites which are probably illegal. I mean, they dress them up with reasons that you could possibly use them, but they're probably used for stuff that, yeah, okay. And they've got pop-ups everywhere, adverts everywhere, and then premium options so you can download your illegal download faster. So they've monetized. I'm not suggesting that you should start a file sharing site. That's not good news. You're more likely to get closed down by the powers. Just using it as an example that there's ways to monetize near enough everything, and people on a download site are looking for free stuff and they've monetized it. But near enough every regular market spends money, so you can monetize that with programs like Amazon, as long as your state or country allows you to use them. And if your videos attract enough views on YouTube, you'll get approached and you'll get messages from YouTube saying, would you like to share advertising revenue with us, please? But selling advertising is getting even more sophisticated, and as long as you can attract enough visitors to your sites, which is why I'm saying that monetization probably doesn't matter too much now. If you can get enough visitors, it doesn't really matter whether or not the site's on the same topic as their actual interests. Sounds a bit odd. But it's retargeting, and it's those creepy adverts that follow you around. They know what you've been shopping for or looking at recently, and it's those that have made it possible. And that means you could near enough follow your dream in internet marketing, and as long as enough other people have the same dream, you can earn money from it. You can monetize pretty much anything nowadays. And that takes us back full circle to how markets change. A decade ago, something like a joke site would have had next to no chance of making money. Now, with the right following and the right number of followers, it can sell ads targeted to each individual visitor. And those are typically sold on a per impression basis. So every time that visitor goes back, and if it's a joke site or anything like that, quote of the day, all that kind of site, if they're going back there each time, new advert, new impression, more money. So stuff that you need to look below the surface sometimes to find that out. But whatever site you create needs to be one that you'll stick with. And that really is it. It's got to be something that you're interested in, something you'll create content on a regular basis, whether regular means daily, lots of times a day, weekly, monthly. Wouldn't go any less than monthly personally, and probably wouldn't go any less than weekly for anything I cared about and wanted to make money about long term. Google seems to treat regular as a much better idea. So that's it for this one. If you'd like to know more, my site is trevordumbleton.com, and lots more information there, and look forward to speaking with you again soon.